it's Natasja, pronounced Natasja. I'm back again with the fourth video in my Naka Girls video series, which means that today we are talking about Cherry. So we're going to talk about Rinkside. First of all, if you have read this book, thank you very much. I'm so glad that you made it this far in the series with me. That's awesome. If you haven't, go read it now because we're gonna talk about a lot of spoilers. Okay, now that you've read it, I know it didn't take you very long because it is a very short book. Let's talk. So Rinkside is actually, first of all, the first novella I've ever written. I've never been very good at writing short stories or anything really short. Like flash fiction kind of freaks me out, but novel length I get good at. So when I went to do this, I was like, okay, I really got to condense down this storyline. So if you felt like it was too fast, that's probably why. But I hope you enjoyed it anyway. I really loved getting into Cherry's narration. I thought that she ended up being like, she's very dramatic, but also so heartfelt and emotional, not just like crying over everything, but like very emotional over her life right now. So Rinkside takes place during the summer, actually same timeline as The B-Boy, which I'm assuming you've read. If you haven't, spoilers abound, hello. But yeah, so over the summer after these characters have graduated, we know Ellie and Julian are on their way to the University of Waterloo, and in the book we find out that Cherry actually is going to be going to school for business, which doesn't really fit her character, but that is the plan that she had made with her parents. So we get to meet her parents in this story, which is great. Her parents are pretty cool. I mean, they're pretty relaxed about things, but obviously every parent wants their kid to have some sort of drive or some sort of plan for their life. So they said to her, if you don't have a plan, then you're gonna go to school and maybe you'll take over from us afterwards, because they own the skating rink, and we know that Cherry works there. She's a manager there. We get to see her in her role at this skating rink, which is a lot of fun too. And then we have Richie, and Richie is a wonderful young man. He's 20 years old. Full disclaimer, none of my characters are ever based on people, but Richie happens to look exactly like my husband. It was kind of half unintentional. He popped on the scene and had blonde hair and brown eyes, and I thought, oh, I'll just make him look like my husband. So yeah, you're right. He is the most attractive character in the entire series. So you're welcome. But yeah, so he's 20 years old. He's the nephew of the main Zamboni driver that works at the ice rink, and we find out that Gary, the Zamboni driver, is sick and he's in the hospital, and actually he's dying. You read the book, so you know already. He does die in the book, which is really sad. We see that Ellie had a bit of a relationship with him, but Cherry, of course, has known him for a good number of years, just having seen him working there and him having seen her there and skating and growing up. So it's a very sad thing for her, and it's also a thing that brings her and Richie together. Even though she had never really known Richie before then, they kind of had this shared bond over that, and turns out they have other things in common as well. So we have Richie, and Richie doesn't get to narrate any of the story, but he's open enough with Cherry that we find out a lot of things about him, and we find out that he had skipped out on going to post-secondary school and was saving up his money because his ultimate plan was that he wanted to travel the world. But of course, and we find out from his sister as well, so we surmise throughout the story that he really had never gone, basically because he was kind of too afraid to, or he always came up with some excuse for not getting the chance to. And then we see Cherry on the other half of that coin is, she could be doing something more exciting, and her parents would probably be okay with that, but she never makes those kind of plans, so she ends up, enrolling for school for business. And they call each other out on that, which is a little bit of a thing. We see Cherry obviously likes Richie very much, and Richie likes her too, and they kind of are like half dating without really calling it dating. And you know, they have this beautiful day where they go to Paris, Ontario, because she's, you know, she makes this big plan for him, and she takes him there. And that, by the way, is a real town in Ontario. That story about Alexander Graham Bell, also true. So look that up if you're ever interested or curious. But yeah, so they have this whole thing, and then you see them kiss, and they obviously really like each other. But then, like I said, they call each other out on the things that are holding them back from really living their lives. And in the book, I mean, we see that Cherry's relationship with Ellie and Julian has progressed, and they are friends. They've kind of formed this new core group of friends, but Julian is still a little bit like awkward around things, but I think he's just awkward in general. But Cherry, you know, has gotten over her relationship with him, but now there's Richie, and Richie is somebody she's never felt this way about anybody. She, you know, it's a totally new experience for her, and now she's trying to deal with those feelings. But also, when she realizes that one of the things that has become Richie's new excuse, or a new reason for Richie to not travel like he'd always wanted to, was her, then she tries to break up with him, and that becomes a whole big deal. And she kind of equates that to what was happening with her and Julian when they were going through their breakup, and he's like, that's not the same at all. And it's really not the same. It's a little bit the same, but really not. It's a totally different situation. But then, of course, after Gary dies, she tells him, you know, there's nothing left. Like, there's nothing left to hold you back. Go and live your dreams. And he's not satisfied with that. Like, he does want to. He's always wanted to, but he's not satisfied with leaving her behind. So he comes up with this crazy plan that, like, hey, let's both buy a plane ticket to somewhere in Europe. And if we end up in the same place, great. It's fate. And if not, well, then we got to get a good trip out of it. And obviously this is a crazy idea, but, you know, Cherry talks it over with Ellie, and Ellie has that whole thing about how, you know, whether or not fate exists, you can still change. You don't have to be bound by that, right? So she says that, like, if fate is a thing, if I left everything up to fate, I'd probably still be sulking in my room over the fact that I live in Canada and not Hawaii anymore. And it's a really powerful moment kind of for Ellie and also for Cherry, and I think Cherry takes that to heart, and then she decides she's going to go for it. She's going to buy a plane ticket and see if it works out. And I have this little quote from when she does that. So she unenrolls from school, she goes to buy the plane ticket, and right at the end of the scene it says, "The big confirm button is staring at me now. Would I like to confirm changing my life's plan on the off chance it'll work out for me? I hover my mouse over the button, close my eyes, and click. Yes, I'd like to confirm that." So I really love that moment, because it's, you know, she's sitting there, she's staring at the screen. She could just as easily say, never mind, I'm backing straight out of this. But no, she does it. She clicks and she does it. And then, of course, you've read the story, so you know, Cherry and Richie end up buying a plane ticket for Vienna separately on their own. And then they find out, and, you know, Cherry's laughing hysterically, because even if Ellie thinks fate doesn't exist, maybe it kind of still does, right? So, and by the way, if anybody correctly guessed that this was Vienna before you started reading the book, sorry for the spoilers, but yeah, book covers a big spoiler. So, I still love it though. So yeah, it's a fun book. And then, of course, we see Cherry's parents are totally okay with her wanting to do that rather than going to school, and it's, you know, they're okay with that. So that's what happens in the end. They both decide that they're going to go to Vienna together, and Cherry says, you know, I would have found you anyway. He says, yeah, that's what I was banking on. So it's a really cute ending. I really love it. I love that, you know, he puts that to her, and that whole thing. So, and then other things I loved about this book, again, getting to see Ellie and Julian from Cherry's perspective, and getting a little bit of that backstory from what Cherry thought of when she was dating Julian and what she thinks of them now. And again, she is friends with them. She likes being friends with them. I also love that scene where Red and Zara come and they skate on the ice, and seeing that again from somebody else's perspective is really cute, because I don't think Zara and Red realized it at the time, but they're like totally in love with each other. We all knew it. Cherry knows it. She sees it, and she even thinks that, like, you know, if he can grow up and fall in love, then like she totally can too. So yeah, by the way, if anybody has bought this in paperback, thank you so much, because I love this the back image that I chose for it. I just like it. I think it's really cute. So I appreciate people who buy my paperbacks so that they can appreciate a full cover. So yeah, thank you so much for getting this far in the series with me. If you have read further in the series, you know, we'll be talking about Outside Edge and Adrian in the next video, so stay tuned for that. If you haven't read Outside Edge yet, please do read it before I put up the next video. It's a great book. The whole series is great, if you ask me. I mean, I know I wrote it, but I still really enjoy it. So thank you so much, guys. If I missed anything that you loved about this book, let me know, and I'll get back to you on that.